Hello everyone, I am back with another map review. This time it is Cactus Valley, Ladder Edition, so let's begin. Okay, so this map has a watchtower in the middle. It is a 4-player map, and this watchtower has a lot of importance depending on positions. So for example, if we're in these positions that I am in this game versus the opponent, it doesn't have as much importance as if we were cross map. If it was cross map, controlling the middle would be extremely important because it would give you plenty of vision where the opponent is moving and where his army is. So if you're in cross position, make sure you have the watchtower in each matchup if you can. But yeah, so let's start with walling off. Just like on any map, make sure your main is walled off, and once you expand to the natural base right here, you want to be walling off this part against Zerg and Protoss. Once again, do not wall off your natural against Terran, simply because you will be losing depots for nothing. You can wall off this with 3 supply depots if placed correctly. So don't overdo supply depots. I've seen some people do supply depots here, which takes about 4, and then you're just kind of wasting time and resources there. So just do it with 3, and make sure you have the walls so you don't have the run-bys from the other 2 races. Okay, so third base. This map is interesting for third bases. Most people that I play against and that when I watch people play, they prefer to take third base away from their opponent. But it also depends, especially on Cactus, where the opponent spawns. So in these positions right here, I would always take, for example, my main is here, my natural is there, and I would take this as my third base. So I think I'll mark it on the minimap. So I think no one would take this as a third in these positions because it's so close to the opponent and you're spreading yourself out too thin in a way. This way, if you take this as a third, the doom drop potential or harass against any race becomes a lot less than if you would take this base. Now let's say if the opponent spawn in the bottom side right here and I spawn in top left, in TVT and TVZ, I would prefer taking this base, but this creates certain problems with it. I think for TVZ, the best thing you can do is take this base, because your rally point would be here, and then you would be pushing this side, your third base is here, so it's all safe and protected. But if you take it in TVT, you open yourself to Terran sieging up here with siege tanks and attacking your third, which, depending how you play, you will have issues with it. If you play bio against bio, I think you will have a lot of issues with that. So I would just suggest taking this base if the opponent is on the bottom side. But if the opponent is cross map, I would prefer, again, taking this one. But it opens you to the potential of siege tank positioning here. But then again, with how the map is laid out, siege tanks can siege up here if you're across. But the difference is, if the opponent spawn in the bottom left, he probably won't be going all the way around to siege up your third, because you have shorter path to his natural then, and then the positioning war is basically a lot better for you. So this map, it has to do a lot with where the opponent spawn, what matchup it is, and so on. No matter what the opponent is, I would never suggest you in these spawn positions that my opponent and I are now, I would never suggest you taking this base. But depending if the opponent is cross or in the bottom left, you can switch up which base you take. But most of the time, I would be going for this one, because I simply think it's better. But try both out and see how it works out for you. So how this map plays out. This map is very good for run-bys in general. So Hellion run-bys, even Reaper pokes. Early aggression is, I think, pretty good on this map, despite the map being bigger, because the natural is very easy to access to in TVT or TVP as well. But in general, it's also very a good map for mutas because it is a big map, it has dead space, and you can be harassed as well. So, for example, once again, let's start with TVZ. The map usually opens with fast 3 base. I've met a lot of Nidus worms here because Terrans open 3 base. Zergs like to do Nidus or even 2 base muta builds. But of course, you can also play very greedily as Zerg because of the size of the map. So it's very hard to explain this map because of all the positioning advantages and disadvantages, but I'll just go say in how overall the map is, because I would need to talk about specific position and specific matchup, which would take way too long. So what you would want to be doing on this map is just rally pushing to the against Zerg to the position where it's best for you. Now let's say my opponent spawned in the bottom right here, and he took this base, the natural, and of course his third would be here because he doesn't want to expand up towards you. And what you would want to be doing is have a drop all the way on the bottom side right here, because this will be his fourth base. Now this is a problem for Zergs, and it's a very good thing to abuse as a Terran player, in my opinion, because even if you drop here attack, if there's some units you can pick up, stay here, and still annoy the Zerg from this side, maybe even bring a Liberator, so you have Marines here, Liberator sieging up, and it's just very hard for the Zerg to control this side of the map. But as far as the main push goes, you want to be pushing through here because there's a choke. So if you set up Widow Mines or even siege tanks in these positions, it's a very powerful push. You can even load up a medevac here, looks like a face, and just push into the natural. So overall, there's a lot of positional plays on this map, whether it's siege tanks or liberators, or even the drops themselves. Most of the time it's pretty difficult to get into the main base and get a drop off, in my opinion. For example, if the opponent spawn in the bottom side, let's say this is their third, so they're gonna have coverage of this side. The natural becomes kind of hard to drop since there will be, you know, 2 spore crawlers and you can't really do much. And then, well, the main base, if this is their third, there's only one drop pathway, and again, if they put 2 spores, it can be pretty difficult to drop, although you can go all the way around and drop straight into the mineral line. Overall, I think this map is good for drops, but not as much as just drops into bases to harass the mineral lines, as much as denying the bases around the map, because people, every race has a fast 4 base, easy 4 base, let's say, but the 5th base or the 4th base, depending where you spawn compared to your opponent, can be very difficult to take. So even if this was TVT, you could siege up from here to the 4th base and cause a lot of problems. Overall, it's a pretty good macro map, and depending how you play, you should be abusing drops and liberators against Zerg, because it's pretty difficult for them to keep all the bases alive. Now, TVP. There's a lot of Stargate openers on this map. Sometimes you will see Protoss players doing kind of YOLO builds, and what I mean by that, they will open, let's say if they spawn here, they will open one base and then without scouting proxy Stargate here, hoping that you either spawned on this side or on this side, and then after placing the Stargate they scout you. So if you spawned all the way to this side, they're kind of screwed, but that's the gamble they take, 66% for success. So pay attention to that. I did meet a lot of proxy Stargates, but even without the proxy, Stargate is very common in this map because Protoss has issues in defending the main base from drops. So unlike Zerg, they don't have mutas, so they have to go for Phoenix. So if this is the Protoss base, this is the third, you can attack the third through this path, which is very strong for siege tanks from this side or just liberator positioning. If he defends or you see that you will fail, you can just load up, go to the main, and the Protoss needs to go all the way around with his units. So this is the reason why they usually open Stargate, Oracle into Phoenix, so they can have Phoenix patrol in this path and basically deny the drops. If that's the case, the mothership core is usually on the natural, covering drops from this side with pylons. So yeah, Protosses usually play very defensive on this map because the map is so big that if they try to be aggressive, if the drop arrives into their base, they're kind of screwed. It forces a base raid situation, which is usually not that good for Protoss in general. So yeah, I would suggest opening on this map with some kind of harass, but you have to be careful of the Phoenixes, and yeah, you should be doing drops for sure in this map. Just be careful with the amount of Phoenix, and if he has the units in the main base. If you see 3 Phoenix here, you can still go for a drop, but make sure to scan and see what's inside the main base. If your opponent spawned in the bottom left and I'm in top right, let's say, you never want to be fighting here if he has Colossus, in my opinion. Because you can get flanked, first of all. Like if you're pushing through this side, you can get surrounded. He can attack you from here, flank you from behind, and it's very hard to push in, because if you siege up Liberator here and here to cover this area, the Stalkers can just blink, pick off the Liberators, and so on. I would suggest going this side, sieging up Liberators. Takes 2 Liberators to cover this whole area, and then you can pre-split bio like this, so he's forced to attack into your concave. And once again, it gives you very good positioning, because even if it fails, you just go to the main base and do a huge drop. The fourth base is easy to take for Protoss, but again, it's very hard for Protoss to position their units, so you can abuse that. You can attack from this side, the bottom side, drop in the natural from all the way behind, into the main, and so on. And the 5th base will be very hard to secure. I think 5th base in this map in general is very hard to secure for any race. But yeah, Liberators are not so good on this map, so don't... what I mean by that is the Liberators for harassing the mineral lines, not in your main unit composition. So don't try too much to set up Liberators. There will be either Stalkers here or pylons. There's not a lot of dead space, so even if you siege, your Liberator will be here and units will be able to shoot at it. Same thing with the natural. If you siege up here, the units can just shoot you in the pylons, so don't waste too much resources on that. One thing that you can use is siege tanks. Quite effective on this map, so no matter which positions you spawn in, you can always abuse that. If this is the Protoss natural, you can siege up here just like against Zerg. If the Protoss takes a 3rd base, you can siege up here, and then Protoss has a hard time breaking that. So whichever position you spawned, the opponent spawned, siege tanks are very good on this map, so make sure to abuse that as much as you can. And last but not least, TVT. TVT on this map is very imbalanced, and I'll explain what I mean by that. This map has extreme positional imbalance, and what that means is if I spawn here and my opponent spawned here, I'll just mark those in the minimap. Oops. The number 2 player has extreme advantage simply because this is his natural, this is his 3rd base, he rallies units here. So when he goes for a push, he will go through this side, right? Because it's the closest, it makes sense. But when this player goes for a push, if you go this side and he pushes from this side, let's say you have a siege line right here, and all my units are here, all his units are here. Same thing what happens in TVP. He can just load up and go into your main base, doom drop, and end the game. And based on where you spawn, you have to be extremely careful about that. You have to take into consideration where he is spawned, where you spawn, and who has that positional advantage or disadvantage. Because let's say he plays defensive, okay? So let's say he has a watchtower here, and you're pushing from this side. He sieges up, you siege up here, you have nowhere to go. You cannot doom drop the natural, because that makes no sense. There's not enough space on the natural, and you will most likely take damage. So if he sieges up here and he sees you with Watchtower moving around, he will move his units around as well by scanning. If you go to the Watchtower, he will scan and see where your units are moving once again. If you move this side, he will simply move his units here. And then, because he sees your army constantly, he can block you here, which you cannot do doom drop like this, because he's just going to stim with Marines and kill your doom drop. But for this side, like I said, it's way easier for him to push and just continue to doom drop, or just doom drop you straight from the natural without you knowing. So be aware of that. A lot of doom drops on this map, and almost never kind of quote unquote fair play. Also, 5 racks and siege tank is very good on this map, because if the opponent goes for fast 3 base, like I mentioned earlier, you can siege up here and abuse these kind of positions with siege tanks. I think that's pretty much it as Cactus goes. A lot of drops, a lot of Stargate and air unit play, Muta, Phoenix, drops Liberators as well. And even though it's a very big map, it's a very positional map. So make the most usage out of siege tanks. I think this is one of the few maps where siege tanks can really shine on a map and be like extra good just because of the map layout and just how the map is played out in general. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next map review video.